Hi, Porfakis, Good News Planet. I'm speaking to Shelley Nasso. Hi, Shelley. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having us.
Great. You're the CEO of the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship.
Yes.
Thank you for doing that kind of work. I know you've been involved with that kind of outreach for a long time, and that's good news right there.
Yes.
And great. And Justin Birckbichler, I hope I said that okay. Hi, Justin. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We're going to talk about survivorship today and some of your personal experience dealing with and some triumphs, which are all good. And I will say that I got some cancer this year as well, some melanoma, and I did some surgery. So, I'm living with it as well. So it's not an easy, however, not an easy life, but you have to be positive. And thank you for coming out and doing this. And there's a movie that you created as well. So maybe we'll start. Shelley, why don't you give us some?
Great. Thank you for having us and for sharing your experience. The National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship was founded in 1986 when people with cancer were still considered victims. A group of cancer survivors got together and said that they didn't really want to be considered victims anymore, and they really created the concept of cancer survivorship. And here we are 33 years later, and we have almost 17 million cancer survivors living in this country because of advances in treatment and research, and also just, we're doing better at taking care of cancer patients. But what we have to recognize is that cancer is not over when it's over. People finish treatment and still live with the effects of their cancer treatment for the rest of their lives, really, whether it be the physical side effects of their cancer treatment or the emotional and social effects of their cancer treatment. And we're doing better at understanding those needs and addressing those needs. I think we still have a long way to go to improve, because we hear from cancer survivors all the time that they feel really lost in that first year after cancer treatment. And so that's why we are grateful to Bristol Myers Squibb for really highlighting the issues of cancer survivorship and also supporting us in our advocacy efforts on behalf of cancer survivors.
Great. Okay. And it's companies like Bristol Myers that are helping us to live longer through their hard-earned money going into a lot of great research with a lot of great doctors. So that's for sure. Justin, tell us how you got involved with survivorship today.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was something that I never saw coming in my life, but I'm forever grateful for having this experience now. I was diagnosed with testicular cancer when I was 25 years old, and I really had no time to react to anything that was happening because I was diagnosed, I had surgery, and then I started chemo all within 1 month of each other, and I really had no time to really process anything that had been happening to me. And it wasn't really until I stopped going to treatment and seeing my doctor every day that I realized now it's time to react and really process everything. And it was a very isolating experience because I had my medical team every day for a long period, and now I wasn't going to see them for 6 months or upwards of longer than that. And so I ended up feeling a lot of different mental health challenges, such as anxiety or depression or PTSD. And I eventually got involved with Bristol Myers Squibb as a patient ambassador for the Survivorship Today program, where there's a lot of different cancer survivors who come together to share their stories, their own unique challenges, how they've overcome those, and to really provide inspiration and resources for the other people to let everybody know that you don't have to feel isolated and you don't have to be alone, because as Shelley said, we're learning more and more about survivorship, and we need to make sure that we're providing the adequate and relevant resources for our nearly 17 million cancer survivors.
Justin, you're a young guy. I think it says 28 years old here. How did you learn that you had a concern here and then been dealing with it? How did that initially happen for you?
Yeah, so one bit of advice that I really took to heart from my pediatrician was to be doing monthly testicular self-exams. And back in October 2016, I was doing my routine self-exam, and there had been nothing there in the previous month. And then on my left testicle, there was a lump there. And so I got a doctor within a couple of about 2 weeks, and then the process moved very quickly. And I've become a huge proponent of early detection because it's truly what saved my life.
Interesting. just because I thought I heard you say, did you say pediatrician?
Yeah, so my pediatrician, starting from when I was a early teen, really instilled this in me, and even my family care doctor, after a transition out of pediatric care, really instilled that in me.
Okay, so you had a good, a great doctor there.
Absolutely.
Who was a wise person. As we know, we all have a lot of concern. A lot of organizations raising money for more research. Shelley, tell us some of the later. Well, tell us about this movie that you have Sterling K. Brown narrating. What's that all about?
I'll let Justin tell you a little bit more about the videos.
Yes.
Sure.
So the video.
Okay.
Yeah, the video series details all sorts of different cancer survivors of various different types who they talk about different things that they've experienced. In the episode in which I appear, we talk about my mental health challenges. Some other people, there's a cancer survivor who talked about going through cancer as a new mom and what that's like. And there's a variety of different episodes that Sterling and the cancer survivor in that episode talk about what's going on to really provide the resources to let people know that no matter your situation, someone else has probably been there and this is how they've gotten through it.
There's a website as well, Shelley. What is that?
The website that has these interviews is called survivorshiptoday.com, and I just really applaud Justin for sharing about the mental health challenges, because so many people don't talk about mental health in general, but particularly mental health as it relates to the after effects and aftermath of cancer treatment. So I think it's really important that he's such a strong advocate for men's health, for mental health, and for cancer survivors. So I'm grateful for you, Justin.
Thank you. I'm grateful for all the work you do.
That's great.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the website right now, and I guess each episode, healing the mind and overcoming barriers and against the odds. So there's quite a lot to deal with here, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
process.
Yes, there really is, and we've created resources, additional resources for cancer survivors to really help them navigate, because I think, as Justin mentioned, it's so important to know that you're not alone, and help. We've created some resources that help people understand what they need to do to navigate through the cancer treatment, and then also the survivorship. We also have a website called canceradvocacy.org/elevate, where we have resources for survivors and their family members, but also resources for people who want to become an advocate, whether it be helping others in their community with support groups, or engaging with researchers on providing a patient perspective in their research, or even talking to members of Congress about what we need to do from a public policy standpoint to try to improve survivorship care. One of the things that we really focus on is empowering people to become advocates for other cancer survivors, and we're grateful for the support that we've had to be able to do this work. And we have information on our website, canceradvocacy.org/elevate.
Okay, that's wonderful. Let me ask you, I know you're going to speak to a lot of people today, and thank you. And Justin, thank you for coming out on it's a personal scenario for you. So for you to be brave and to share your thinking and thoughts, as well as everybody on the website, maybe everybody will learn a little bit more, and maybe enough to help them live life longer. And so thank you very much for doing that, as well as Shelley. We're involved with peace, and peace comes to each of us in their own way. And I'd like to ask both of you, what does peace mean to you?
I'll go first.
Okay, great.
Peace just to me means, finding your inner happiness and what brings you joy and tranquility and calm. And sharing my story is something that helps me find my sense of peace.
Beautiful. And Shelley, for you?
Paul, that's such a great question. Thank you for asking it and for having us here. I think, as Justin said, everybody defines peace in their own way. And for me, it's, having a purpose and being able to help others. And I think that, one of the reasons why cancer survivorship is so important is because everybody has their own motivation and what's important to them in their lives. And with what we try to do is advocate to help people live the best life that they can and be able to do the things that are important to them that give them that peace.
Beautiful. Okay, both of you, thank you so much for sharing the important work that you're doing, and be happy to help support you whenever you would call. So I'm here.
Thank
you
you
very much. Appreciate it. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
A cancer diagnosis takes time to mourn and to process. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I was just in disbelief. I think it just took me a very long time to accept that that was me, and that left me in a very lonely place.
Being diagnosed with cancer can have a tremendous impact on a person's heart and mind. In fact, a person with cancer is twice as likely to experience mental health problems compared to a person without the disease, even after finishing treatment. I can't imagine what you've gone through, getting diagnosed with cancer, prime of your life.
I was just numb is the best way to describe it. Nobody thinks when they're in their mid-20s they're going to get cancer.
This is very sudden.
Yeah.
Very quick. What's going on inside your soul?
So much had happened so quickly.
Yeah.
And I had no time to react. I just had time to act. I noticed it was getting worse. I was, reflect a lot on what's happened. And what I realized was after I finished treatment and I started looking better on the outside, the inverse was happening on the inside. During treatment, I was seeing my doctor every single day, and then all of a sudden they say, you're in remission. And I went from having a structured plan every single day to now I'm not seeing anybody for 6 months. And in that 6 months, I felt a lot of anxiety, and especially coming up on scans.
It seems that people tend to overlook the fact that cancer can affect the way that you think and feel.
I wanted to go back to pre-cancer Justin.
Sure.
That doesn't happen.
To me, it was a shock, first of all, to be diagnosed and said, you've got cancer. The other challenge that came up at the same time while dealing with treatment, and the reality of that, was that I felt there was no outlet and place that I could really share my feelings. My family, I love them dearly, but nobody ever would mention the cancer word, the C word. And later on, upon reflection, I figured out potentially it was because of the culture. I mean, in Asian culture, talking about things that are potentially what we construe as negative, whether it be death, disease, divorce, is just seen as like taboo. You don't talk about it. You don't even mention it.
I find the same thing in the African American community, especially amongst the older generations, that there is a certain sort of armor that we have to put on in order to endure the hardships of life.
I had a million questions on my mind and things I really wanted to share. The reaction was, let's just talk about what needs to be done. It would be reduced to scheduling, let's say, appointments, or finding information about what physicians or care, but never a discussion about how are you feeling? Do you need a hug? And I felt like I really needed that.
Finally, both to my doctor and to the cancer community that I found on social media, admitted that I wasn't feeling okay, and I was feeling symptoms of depression. And one thing that helped, in addition to talking to my doctor, was putting that out there, and how many other cancer survivors and patients reached out and said, you're not alone.
That kind of love is kind of wonderful. What action did you take? How did you find some sense of purpose in the midst of that fog?
I couldn't find a lot of resources written from the perspective of a 20-something going through cancer.
Sure.
And I decided to create it. One thing, I wanted to use a lot of humor in it, because while cancer is no laughing matter, humor can help.
It's healing.
It is healing.
Yeah.
So by choosing to approach it in a positive manner, that helped me try to stay positive.
I looked for organizations for young women and breast cancer, and I found a number of them. I reached out to them, and I told them this is my story, and some of these women have become some of my best friends.
Now finding yourself being isolated, you're like, well, I have to do something, because this is too much to shoulder by myself.
For me, it was like, I was thinking I'm like walking in a desert and I need to go find water.
I heard that.
In order for me to be the healthiest person and live the greatest life possible for myself, I really need to know myself well enough to say, I need to share my story.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't work for everybody else, but I need to do this in order to kind of live the best life that I can, and also hopefully be a positive impact to others as well.
I love that. I mean, the importance and the power of communicating, of simply sharing one story, can never be undervalued.